The Chiefs got the first hurdle of their offseason out of the way. They reduced the cap number for one Patrick Mahomes, and that was the right thing to do today on Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Welcome back, friends and neighbors. Thanks for making us your first listen here on Locked On Chiefs, your daily Locked On show for the Kansas City Chiefs and Locked On Podcast Network, the number one sports podcast network in America. We can't thank you enough. He's Chris Clark over at KC Chiefs Corner. I'm Ryan Tracy at NFL 33, Rogue Analytics and Performance Consulting, and NFL33.com. We've been doing this a very, very, very long time together, approaching a decade, and you everydayers, I know you know that already. Everydayers are the people that are here every show, one way or the other, whether it's YouTube or audio or both or whatever you happen to be into. You can be one too. And if you want to get audio without ads, and if you want to get access to our exclusive fan-only Discord, you can do it by signing up for the Everydayer Club. Get in there and check it out. We'll have more for you on that in a little bit here. But it's a big day because the number one domino that had to fall this offseason has fallen. Patrick Mahomes has been restructured. Cap space has been restored. Well, mostly. We're going to get into the details of what this restructure was, what the numbers were, how much money moved around, and what does it look like for his contract now. That's first. Then we're going to come back and look at the team, what the cap space is, does, and what it tells you about when they're going to have to do something else for Patrick Mahomes, because that is also clear from today's actions. And then we'll get to what are the next dominoes to fall. Now that the big one has started it off, what comes next? A lot of questions to answer, but I will turn it over to you, boss man. The term that I've heard all day long is that this is a max restructure. Yes, there's a lot of numbers involved. I'm going to let you break it down, but what does a max restructure mean?
Let's get nerdy here.
Yeah.
That's the reality of the situation. Okay, so I don't have the exact numbers as to where it started before the day, but it was right around, I believe, $78 million was his cap number in 2020.
Yes.
2026. At this point, yeah, it looks like his salary cap number was 78.2 in 2026. It is now 34.65. They did do a max restructure. What that means is they're opening up just under $44 million in cap room with this move with Patrick Mahomes' contract. Now, why this is such a big deal this year compared to previous years is because this year it was mostly salary that they dealt with. So it was something different, and we talked about this with Matt yesterday. At this point, that it's a different deal with Mahomes because it's easy to do when you have a roster bonus because it's not something that he has to sign off on. At this point, he has to sign off on it because it's not the same deal. It's his salary, so he signed off on this. He knew it was going to happen, and there are several things that I think this makes a bigger possibility. In the first one, and I know we'll stick to Mahomes' contract, but I do think that this is a precursor to having Travis Kelce back because you don't do a max contract unless you're going to be pushing all of the buttons in this direction, thinking that you're going to be having Mahomes back. And that's the other part of this that really tells me what this team believes is going to happen this year. It's not just that they took the max, it's that they looked at it in a year. Mahomes is coming off an injury and said, we're still going to go for it. We're going to take every bit that we can. We're not going to cheapen it at some point. And that says a lot to me. So right now, as it sits, Mahomes will have a cap number of about, I think, $85 million in 2027. So
we're going to get to that later. We're going to get to the implications for Travis Kelce. But tell me the money that moved around and what went where.
And that's what I was getting to. So what it did is you take like $44 million and you spread it out over the next 5 years. So the reality is you go from 78.2 to about 35 million. So you're dealing with close to $45 million, $48 million, and it frees up 44 because you're spreading out that cap hit over the next 5 years, which is why this will gain almost $11 million over Mahomes' contract for the next 4 years. That's why his cap number goes to 2027 in 85 million in 2027. So they took his money that he was owed, which was like 45 million in salary plus a little bit of a roster bonus, and they spread it out over the next several years. His salary in 2026 is $1.3 million. So and Matt and I talked about this yesterday. And if you didn't listen to that, it's kind of funny that this happened the day after Matt and I talked about it. So go check that out. But the thought process here is interesting because Mahomes was only scheduled to be at like 15th in the NFL when it comes to quarterbacks and the cost when it comes to salary cap. And now his AP, well, that's still his average per year. But if you look at this year, his cost is going to be even lower. He's way down that list. Well, still probably about 12th or 13th with a cap number of only $35 million. So this saved them a ton of space and got them to a point where they can make some other moves. We will get into what is next, what they still have to get done because they're still about $11 million over the salary cap right now. That's easy enough to fix, and they still don't have their full roster under contract either. So that's something to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. And right now at the $34.6 million that is his cap number after this maneuver, he sits at right about 11.5% of the total team salary. That's pretty dang good. It was 10% last year after their maneuvers. Previous years to that, it was 14.5, 16.5, and over 17 before that. So even though it's taking these ramifications are making it more difficult, they are actually reducing the amount of spend they're putting on him from year to year here significantly over the last couple of Super Bowl seasons. So I think that's important as well.
And the crazy thing is we don't have the full cap number yet. We have an idea of what it's going to be. We think it's going to be about 300, somewhere between probably 300 and $310 million. Could be around 303 is what a lot of people are guessing. So we'll see if that ends up coming out to be accurate. So it could even end up being a situation where his number is even lower than what you just said because the cap's higher. And that's just reality. But the fact that they got this deal done, and I know we're going to be talking about what's next over the next couple of segments, but the fact that they got this done now tells me that they have a lot of stuff that they're planning on for free agency and for getting this roster rebuilt for 2026, and that they're going to be attacking 2026 because you don't make a max restructure like they did with Patrick's contract unless you're going to be pushing to try to go to the Super Bowl again, because it just pushes too much money forward. It pushes, like I said, almost $11 million a year forward and makes his number even more unsustainable in next year. Obviously in 2027 2028, 2029, 2030, it becomes a little bit more manageable, but $85 million isn't manageable for next year. So
absolutely.
As you said on X, this is something that will happen again in 12 more months.
Yes. Just hold your breath, folks. It's going to feel like a flashback Friday because it is going to happen. Now, what does that cap space look like right now? What are the next things that we want to look about? How Patrick's contract goes forward. And then later in the show, we're going to get to the next moves the team has to make. That's all coming up right after this with Patrick's new contract.
If you've ever hired somebody who looked good on paper but wasn't the right fit, you know how important that is. When you want candidates who truly match what you're looking for, trust Indeed sponsored jobs. Hiring Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other sites. Indeed sponsored jobs put your post at the top of the page and helps you reach the right candidates faster. If I need to hire someone for this show, I go straight to Indeed to be very specific about what I need. Real experience, not just a resume buzzword. Instead of struggling to get your job post seen, Indeed sponsored jobs helps your listing stand out and reach quality candidates faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed are 90% more likely to report a higher than non-sponsored jobs. Spend more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with less stress, less time, and more results using Indeed sponsored jobs. Listeners to the show get a $75 sponsored job credit to help give your job the premium placement it deserves at Indeed.com/LockedOnNFL. Just go to Indeed.com/LockedOnNFL right now and support the show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Welcome to the new 5-Hour Energy Flavor Draft. We're looking at every aspect of the draft to let you know which tasty flavors are the best and which might be sleepers. The board is set, the flavors are ready, and only one is going to take the top spot. 5-Hour Energy has a wide variety of flavors and has something for everybody. The shots give you a boost with zero sugar. There are lots of different flavors that they're coming out with, whether it's cotton candy or confetti craze. They have the original ones, the classic ones, cherry, grape, and berry. My favorite is the cherry. I think that's the one I'm going to go with number one overall. It's bold. It gives you a candy style flavor. It has sweet. It is very sweet with a little bit of a tart edge, and it has a classic red fruit profile. It is smooth and easy to recognize, and I absolutely love the cherry flavor of 5 Hour Energy. Go check out 5 Hour Energy. Find your favorite flavor of 5 Hour Energy shots available online at 5hourenergy.com or Amazon.
Now, we want to make sure that you guys get everything that you want. And if you want to be an everydayer, you get a couple of things. You get access to our premier access, limited, shall we call it, to just our fans over on our Discord. And you get ad-free audio. Those are the two giant perks that you get when you join the Everydayer Club at LockedOnChiefs.supercast.com. Check that out. Now, cap space is something that is always a little bit fluctuating. It depends on the reports and who's putting what where and those kind of things. And we always see it move around. So this is a number that is reported today. Doesn't mean that it's actually legitimate. They could be doing other things. But right now, they sit at 11.3 in cap space. Negative 11.3 in cap space, which means there's a number of things that they still have to do. We're going to talk in a little bit about what the next moves they should make. But for Patrick, it was to get to this spot was an enormous piece of work. They're going to have to do it next year, because when I look at next year, what I get is $78 million in cap space, but they haven't signed anybody else, which we know they're about to do. They haven't signed a draft class, and they don't have those escalations that are going to go in for stars like Chris Jones. Trey Smith's salary is going to go. Creed Humphrey's salary is going to go up, those kind of things. So there's still more room needed. So for the future for Patrick Mahomes and the number that you threw out a little bit ago, what does that look like? Because as you said, what I took it away from is 12 months from now, we're going to be talking about the same thing because they got to do something. I thought they would redo this whole contract now. This max restructure kind of threw me for a loop because I didn't think it was going to be as effective as they needed it to be. So do you think that happens next year? Or do you think we're still sticking with this framework forever?
I'm not going to say we stick with it forever. I expected them to redo the contract this year, but I wonder when they're doing a max restructure, and this is kind of what I said on X. This is what I said a little bit earlier in the last segment. I wonder if this means that they think that Kelce's coming back and they're going to push all in and they're going to push all their eggs in one basket, because a redo of the entire contract isn't going to free up much more space than they just did. So, and it's a little bit murkier because he has an injury at this point. And I don't think that really should play into it that much, but it could, for all I know, play into what they decided to do this year. And the other reality is like, we're talking about this now. This is likely something that the Chiefs have known what they were going to do with like 80 to 95% certainty for the last 2 years. Probably they had at least a pretty good idea this is the direction it was going to go. So they know what they're doing with that. And this is a contract that was built to move things around. And as long as Patrick is getting paid in cash around the top of the market in the NFL, he's going to be happy. This just makes that happen even more for him. He's getting that. That's the other part of this. He's not having to wait for it, because the other part of that is, think about it this way. His salary was like $45 million. Mm-hmm. Now, we don't know when they're paying out this roster bonus, but they could be paying it out now. So he could be getting $45 million or whatever the roster bonus ended up being in total in cash now, versus having to wait till the season and getting that over a 18-game season. So lots of different things in there that could be playing into this. And for Patrick, it doesn't really matter because he was going to get the money anyway. The Chiefs weren't going to be cutting him. There's no way that he was going anywhere. So it's just a matter of, did he want the money now or did he want it later? And the reality for him is, if he makes this move now, like he's done like the Chiefs have done every single year, but if he helps them do this move now they have the next couple of weeks. They have almost, 3 weeks, about 3 weeks until free agency starts. Mm-hmm. So now you have an idea of what you have to get done. And I know we're going to talk about what's next in a second, but now you have an idea of what you have to get done, so you can figure out what you're going to do with your own free agents, what you're going to do with the guys that are still on the roster, and how that's going to affect everything.
Yeah, you can start planning now. So there's no reason.
Right.
It'll get the job done. I will tell you this, the other thing that it does, it lets you plan out for the future too. And I have some serious questions about the way void years work, because I have always operated under the assumption, because of the structure of the contract, that this was the year that you tear it all up and redo it, right? There are always clauses, if both parties are amenable to it, to just literally just throwing an old contract out. It can be done. But now that I look at it, and as you said, this accomplished almost as much as a significant restructure could, right? Or a tear up could have, right? I look at it and I wonder if they're just trying to stay within the framework of this contract, knowing that he's now a free agent in 2032. And if they had to, they could just do an extension, not really add a whole lot of money, and just extend it through that same 2035, which is the last void year currently on the contract. I don't know what the ramifications are of that, but now I'm starting to wonder whether they have to actually redo it in his career at all, or if it just stays within the extended structure of this one contract for his whole career.
I think they rip it up eventually. I don't know when it's going to be. I would have thought it would be this year. There's some people that think that 2028 becomes a bigger issue, and the reason that they're saying that 2028 can become a bigger issue is because when you look at his contract in the future, it's a matter of, in 2028, his contract, his salary cap number would be $53 million. But the problem is he's only got on contract and salary for $18 million in 2028, with a roster bonus of 8.2 and a workout bonus of $1 million. So he's literally going to cost you about little more than $25 million in, yes, he has prorated signing bonus in 2028, but that's not something he's actually getting paid. So his actual cash cost is going to be less than $30 million. And when you're looking at that, you can't have that happen in 2028. So you're going to have to do something that year at the latest. But what do you do in the meantime? It's going to be one of those things where it's just going to be, okay, we'll look and see. Like next year, he's got a salary of 45.8. So that's in a roster bonus of 6. So that puts him in almost $50 million, which is about where you want him to be. And another workout bonus of $1 million. So that puts him at $52 million, which is about top of the market when it comes to QBs and what they're making cash wise. So I don't think he'd be very upset about it next year. But when you look at 2028 and he's down to $30 million in cash, because it's an accounting issue where his cap number is so high because it's at like $52 million, you're going to have to make some kind of adjustment. And what they've done in the past is they brought money back. They brought money forward from the back of the contract, which is why you have this scenario of 2028 being so cheap. They brought some of that money forward in a redo that they did a couple of years ago. So I do think that they're going to have to adjust it then. And at that point, we'll see where they go with the money. I don't really think it's that big of an issue. I think that Mahomes wants to be here long term. The Chiefs want him here long term. They'll figure something out in 2027 or 2028, and they've got plenty of time. They could be working, as far as we know, this could just be one thing.
Yeah.
Like they can't do anything again after. I don't believe they can do anything again after the new league year starts. But maybe they could, since it would be a new league year. Maybe they could sign him to an extension and be working on something throughout the entire summer. And I'd have to look into that. But my point is like, you're not going to be able to do something again for a while, more than likely. So we're going to be waiting. They've got plenty of time to work it out and get it figured out, because they already got this year taken care of. His cash wise, he's good this year and next year. So you can figure out, okay, what do we think this is going to be? Because the other part of the equation that comes into this that I'm sure his agents are looking at is, what do we think the salary cap is going to be? Because his number should be in approximation to what the cap is, not necessarily what it is right now.
Yeah, that's a very good point. And so what does happen next? Well, Jawan Taylor, you're on the block.
Hey, it's Matt Derry from the Locked On Lions podcast. The people I love depend on me. If I'm gone, the financial responsibilities don't disappear. I didn't want my family figuring things out during the hardest moment of their lives. That's why I knew only one place to go. I chose life insurance through my friends at Ethos. Ethos makes getting life insurance fast and easy, 100% online. You can get a quote in seconds, apply in minutes, and get same-day coverage. There's no medical exam. You just answer a few simple health questions. You can get up to $3 million in coverage. Some policies are as low as $30 a month. I love the folks at Ethos. Protect your family with life insurance from Ethos now by going to ethos.com/LockedOnNFL. In as little as 10 minutes, you can get the free quote and up to $3 million in coverage at ethos.com/LockedOnNFL. That is ethos.com/LockedOnNFL. Ethos.com/LockedOnNFL. Application times and rates may vary.
Well, it's that time of year, and this is where things hit the road. This is just the beginning because obviously they still have 11.3 to clear by the 11th of March. So next moves are coming. And not to single out Jawan Taylor, I thought he's put in some good work since he's been here, but we all
pause
know.
For just a second.
Oh,
say that again. Say what you just said again.
Jawan Taylor's put in some good work since he's been here.
Yeah. And people don't want to admit that. I understand they're frustrated with the penalties. I understand that they're pissed off about, the false starts and whatnot. That is part of his game. It has always been part of his game. It got singled out and it got something that never should have been to the point where it was. But he has played fantastic at tackle for the most part for this team his entire time he's been in Kansas City. I understand it doesn't matter, and they're likely going to cut him. But I do want to give him his flowers because he deserves it. He has played well for the Chiefs, and I know people are frustrated because of the penalties, but I honestly, I'll take the penalties if he protects Patrick Mahomes. Like that's where my trade-off was.
And he has for the most part. I wouldn't say fantastic, but he's played well for the most part. And so I think it just becomes a value proposition against the contract, knowing that he's 27 against the cap this year. It's just untenable, especially
but
when
that's also not on him, just to be clear.
Fair enough, but that's the reality of it. So
sure.
that makes this a foregone conclusion. I know we've maybe glossed over that in the last few weeks just because we know that this is coming because they don't have another viable way to get under the cap right now. There's other cuts that could happen, but there's not one other single move that gets them under the cap, and this one does. So I do think I don't. If I did the numbers right, I don't think they can do it with the Danna cut, which I do think is probably a possibility.
It's not just but you're talking specifically just cutting players. Yeah, there's not maybe cutting players, but there's another restructure you could do and get under the salary cap.
There is, but you just did it, and we'll talk about that in a second. So what is next? The expectation is that Jawan Taylor will be released here very shortly. The fact that they're getting the ball moving makes me think that it's coming pretty quickly. I do think there's a good possibility. I won't say it's 100% that Mike Danna gets released. I think he might even come back if that happens. But those two moves alone gather you enough to get to 17 in cap space on the positive side, right?
Yeah, I believe that's right. Double checking that.
Yeah, I always double check my math. It's better than my spelling, but not by a long shot.
Oh God, I hope so.
Yeah, let's cross our fingers. So those are two things that we do expect to happen, but it's not the only thing. Like you said, there's a lot of talk here about do you trade Trent McDuffie? That gives you some cap relief as well. Do you
13.
Restructure Chris Jones? That I think is a two-edged sword. It gives you some space, but it ties you to a 32-plus-year-old player, and I think that's the problem.
That is definitely going to be the problem. So if you cut Mike Danna and you cut Jawan Taylor, it gives you $17.6 million in cap space.
Yeah,
now,
good math.
To be clear, that's before you do anything with Travis Kelce. If Travis Kelce comes back, which I still think is probably going to happen. Mm-hmm. Now, are there other moves you can do? Yeah, you could. I think obviously they're not going to cut him, but because of the way his cap number is, it's not going to. Oh, he's guaranteed Trent McDuffie is guaranteed money in 2026, so you can't cut him. But you would save 13.6 if you traded him. So at that point, you would get to $31 million in cap space.
Sounds better,
if you cut Drew Tranquil, which I still think is a decent possibility, that would get you to $37 million in cap space. How much do you want to get to? Because you could keep going.
That sounds like enough to me personally.
Probably.
What do we need for the draft class? Let's start there.
So for the draft class, you're throwing me out.
I believe it's 12.3 of their current slot of picks, right now. So 940, 74, 109, 146, and 176 comes to a total of $12,255,000. So you got to keep that. So really, those two moves, Mike Danna and Jawan Taylor, really only get you $5 million in cap space because you have to pay your class.
Yeah, and that's before you even start talking about the guys that aren't under contract. That's before you even start talking about all the other guys you have to add to the roster. Because while it's a 53-man roster, you're only counting 51 players right now. 2, it's really more like a 69 player roster because you have 16 on the practice squad too, and those count as well. So I mean, you're going to have to free up more cap space in some way, shape, or form. So, what is it going to cost the Chiefs for their cap space? It looks like 7.4. So cutting Danna and Jawan Taylor would get you about $10 million in cap space. Now, with the way the Chiefs structure most of their contracts, that probably gives you a decent amount that you can go spend on free agents. But what are you going to pay Travis Kelce if he comes back? And
that's the question.
Yeah, I mean, if you're giving him $5 million, you're basically down to nothing again because the Chiefs want to go into the season with $5 million.
Right.
And let's not forget, if you trade a guy like Trent McDuffie, it frees up $13 million in cap space, but you're going to have another draft pick or 2 that you get from that trade that you're going to have to pay. So it's not going to be a full 13.6. It'll be something a lot less, but it won't be, a full 13.6, but it will free up the cap space. And I'm not saying they have to trade Trent McDuffie. That's just something that people are throwing out and saying. I think Daniel Jeremiah had in his mock draft that the Chiefs may trade or could trade Trent McDuffie to the Cowboys for the number 20 overall pick.
I'll tell you this.
Honestly, think about it this way. You drafted him at, what did you draft him at? Was it 22 or?
I believe it was 20.
Was it 20?
I'll double check, but go ahead with your thoughts.
It was 2022 when he was drafted. I just don't remember exactly what pick he was, but
he was picked 21. George Karlaftis was picked 30.
Yeah, so I mean, you get 4 years and you trade him away, and you have to go replace the corner, but you're going to have to do some stuff this year at different positions. And really quick, you want to mention something that we haven't talked about because we need to at least mention it. The Chiefs did hire a new DB coach.
They did. A guy from Dallas, actually. I believe that was his last stop. You never know, who you're going to get somebody from. But kudos to him because he's got a job to do. And this is exactly why Andre Curtis coming to Kansas City to be the assistant DB's coach to work for Dave Merritt. Here's the thing, though. Yes, if you traded Trent McDuffie, you got $13 million in cap relief, but you have to then go sign Jalen Watson and a draft pick.
Probably.
So you net out maybe $3 million in terms of cap space because you got to pay Jalen 10.
I'm not saying it's a great move. The reality is you have to figure out how you're going to get the cap space to be able to operate and what you want to be able to do. So the thought process that just cutting Mike Danna and just cutting Jawan Taylor and being done is likely not going to be the scenario. The biggest key and the thing that everybody should be watching, and if you're listening right now, here's your key to be watching. Do they do something with Chris Jones's contract? If they do, that means watch out because they're going to really make a push.
It means Ty Hill.
If they don't, what was that?
It means Ty Hill.
Well, no, I don't think it means Hill. I don't think it means Hill. But if they do something with Chris Jones's contract, they're tying themselves to Chris Jones for probably 2027 and probably 2028. Mm-hmm. That is a situation that I don't think that the team should want to be in personally. But it's their, they got to figure out the cap to figure out what they're going to do. And they could restructure Trey. They could restructure Creed. I mean, there's some other guys that they could do some stuff with and make a little bit more cap space. You definitely have that ability to do. But when it comes to, making a move for this year, it's just a question of, are you going to do something with Chris Jones's contract? If you do, okay. Trey Smith has a contract at 19.7 this year. So it wouldn't shock me if they do a restructure there. Creed Humphrey's at 14.2. So you could do restructures there and make some some cap space. And those are guys that are going to be under contract for the next several years anyway. So it's not as big of a deal. But the big key here, and what I wanted to say, when you bring this all back to Jawan Taylor, which is where it starts, the reason his cap number is untenable right now is because they restructured his contract the first year, after the first year he was here. Mm-hmm. They kicked forward enough money to where they had to get to a point where they were going to cut him. Because quite frankly, I would still pay Jawan Taylor close to $20 million and be okay with it this year. I would. I think he's been playing well enough to justify that amount. Now, $28 million, where you're basically at the top of the market, you can't. But
yeah, that's fair. I think there are a number of things that still have to happen. We will get indications here pretty shortly, to tell you the truth. What they might do with it is going to be tough, because those years would be Chris's age 33 and age 34 years. Mm-hmm. That doesn't happen for defensive tackles. So as much as I think that there's an outside possibility, I don't think that's in the best interest of anybody at this point. So let's see what the next domino is. And we're going to have it for you here on Locked On Chiefs, whether it's a full episode, one of our new 10-minute mini episodes that I know you guys are digging, and the shorts. So make sure you get subscribed and that you are an everydayer by making sure that you get in the club and get subscribed. We would appreciate it. There's a ton going on, and this may just be the very beginning of an avalanche of moves the Chiefs will make, and we'll have it covered for you the entire way. Tomorrow, we will get into the next topic about what that offensive line will look like and continued moves. There's a lot of rumor going on right now. We'll sort through some of it as well. Have a great day. Make sure you sign up for the Everyday Club if you're interested. Thank you for your time and your patience, and we will talk to you tomorrow.